Hello everyone! Today let's talk about the upbringing of a child. Many believe that upbringing starts from birth. This is a mistake. I should say that conception is a very serious time. The formation of a child begins not from the moment he is born, but from conception. It is true, as the child is not only an amalgamation of spermatozoid and egg cell, but also an interaction of two people's biofields. In Rus, the young always ensured chastity before marriage. The thing is, during a sexual act, the biofields of two people interact, which imprints in the biofields of these people who engage in sexual acts just for fun. And as a rule, they will have other partners for a family and children. This imprinting of the sexual act will have an impact on their future children. We call it telegony. Here is the story I know. One female Russian student was involved with an African man before eventually marrying her husband. After a while, they broke up. She married a Russian and they conceived a child. Soon after that, she gave birth to a baby with dark skin. Why? Because the sexual acts she had with the African man had imprinted in her biofield. The same thing concerns animals. For instance, when horse mates with a zebra, they do not produce offspring. However, if that horse mates with a horse, they can have striped offspring. As you see, this informational impact exists, and it is objective, because conception is not only an amalgamation of a spermatozoid and egg cell, but also an interaction of biofields. Sometimes, parents cannot understand where their child got some specific feature from. He got that from all those men his mother previously had intercourse with. So, this child has many fathers in the line of biofields. The same thing concerns men. Their sexual acts with women also imprint in their biofields. So, we say that culture forms a person, as well as his psyche, mainly before adulthood. For this reason, when evaluating a person, it is really important to pay attention to many things. What kind of environment he was raised in, how he studied, what kind of parents he had, and other things. This is why childhood is vitally important. Remember that saying I mentioned before: if little Ivan didn't learn, big Ivan will never learn. People can change, but it is really hard. Looking at modern parents, you can guess how upbringing takes place in their families. Besides, most families do not live with their parents. Children don't have a chance to communicate with their grandparents. We state that there is a need to live in the continuity of generations, so that the accumulated experience is passed on to the child. Speaking about life in modern cities, it is not possible for a large family to live in this kind of apartment that we have nowadays. In Russia, we also have these problems. Someone can object, saying that there are some people in our country who still follow their customs and pay heed to their parents, like in the culture of the Caucasus region. In fact, this is only of a declarative nature. So culture, as well as its attributes, are being destroyed. Let's sum up. Kindergarten, school, and other things influence a child's matureness as a human. This process takes place on the basis of a personal genetically determined potential. Everyone has his own unique mission to master his own potential. A person can master the entire potential or some part of it due to the quality of upbringing, education, and so on. In this regard, I'd like to go back to the Jewish ritual of circumcision on the 8th day, which has a negative impact on mastering of the genetically determined potential. It is really a terrible mechanism that appeared during the Sinai trek. Let's consider another possible matrix for man. The formation of man's unique genetically determined potential is conditioned by the biosphere matrix and biorhythms of the cosmos. Man is inscribed in this matrix. Speaking of astrology, he is born under certain oscillatory processes. Even conception takes place under certain oscillations and biorhythms of the cosmos, but not only as a result of an amalgamation of a spermatozoid with an egg cell and an interaction of biofields. Modern astrologists should take all this into consideration, because all these biorhythms have an impact on man's formation and future matureness at the moment of conception. Every person has his own matrix of possible states, what we normally call destiny, fate. Many suppose that destiny is predetermined, but this is not true. Every person can change, completely change his destiny within the boundaries of the pan-universal matrix. It is also important to have self-mastery skills, to rule yourself and your life. Moreover, you have to stay in a constant dialogue with God. Man's genetically determined potential is a certain particular measure, which every person needs to fill with a specific content throughout his life. Everyone has to build his life so that he can master his entire genetically determined potential. Now look around at all people. Do we master our genetically determined potentials? Of course not. Why? Because culture does not contribute to it. What conclusion can we make? We have to form a child's skills at the right time. Or, as I have already said, little Ivan didn't learn. Big Ivan will never learn. We must also remember the following things: kindergarten, school, books, parents. Everything tremendously influences a child. We must also remember that the genetic program has time-restricted boundaries, within which man can master certain things. Remember that example with Mowgli, who was raised by animals and couldn't learn to speak when he appeared in human society. Although he looked the same, one head, two arms, and so on, he, however, failed to learn to speak. Why? Because genetics has time-restricted boundaries. This is why the period before adulthood is so important. If there are no necessary conditions in the environment at a certain period of time, then the genetically determined potential will never open. Analyzing the current situation in Russia, we see that most children already have huge problems before adulthood, which also result in children becoming homeless, criminals, and so on. Who is to blame for that? This is all a result of Malin-Ravia's governance. Can you imagine what society we will have if we don't take any measures now? In this vein, I often recall the Russian song "The Sandpit Generals," which has the following words: "Why did you leave me? Why? I'm your brother, I'm a human." These people are deprived of many things. The rich want them to condone, accept their miserable destiny. But this will never happen. Look at the rich in Russia. Most of them have made a fortune illegally. They are mafias. Look what kind of cottages, villas they build for themselves, which often look like castles, surrounded by barbed wire, with security guards, with machine guns around the perimeters. They make a fortune at the expense of those who they want to accept their miserable destiny. Again, this will never happen. Let's look around. It's already the third millennium, but people are still killing each other. What is it? It is a manifestation of the satanic conception. That's it for today. See you next time.